In this video, we're breaking down Social Security. We're going to figure out how does Social Security actually work. So first, we got to answer the question, what is Social Security? The most basic definition I'm going to give here is that Social Security is a cash payment system set up for retired U.S. citizens, and the magic number for this is going to be 62, at least is where it sits today. We'll get to that in a minute. First, let's take a look at some numbers here. And here we're going to graph the number of Americans receiving Social Security payments from 1970 to 2020. And we're going to graph the number of Americans receiving payments here on the y-axis in millions. So if you see here, in 1970, there's a little bit less than 30 million Americans receiving Social Security payments. And that's going to be just a steady increase over the years to where we sit today. And as of 2023, over 65 million Americans are now receiving these Social Security payments. And the question is, though, who's paying them this? And the answer is the Social Security Administration. And this was set up in 1935 under the Social Security Act, signed into law by President Franklin Roosevelt. In this actual photo, this is an actual photo of them signing this bill into law, which created the Social Security Administration. And this has been a steadily growing program ever since. So here's a photo of Ida Mae Fuller, the first person to ever receive a Social Security payment. And here's a picture of her with the first check on January 31st, 1940 for a whopping $22. So as you can see, the program has grown a ton since that, and those payments have really increased, as you'll see here. So as of 2023, 21% of the U.S. federal budget went to Social Security payments, and that's going to be a total of $1.4 trillion spent on Social Security there. And then the average payment being a little over $1,800. So that is some good numbers on Social Security and how much the program has grown. But let's get back to that original question. How does Social Security work? And it works really like this. So the basic fundamentals of the Social Security program is that you take money from younger people and younger workers and you give it to older people. And that is really the basics of how Social Security works. So every single year, the Social Security Administration receives taxes from employers and employees. So they're going to take 6.2% of your pay from you, 6.2% from your employer, 12.4% for people who are self-employed to make up the difference there. So again, if you're a self-employed person, you're going to have to pay 12.4% instead of 6.2%. And they can only tax this up to a maximum of $160,000. So let's look at a scenario here. And let's say that you made $200,000 last year working for Microsoft. But remember, you can only get taxed on Social Security up to $160,000. And you also don't have to worry about that 12.4% in this scenario because, again, you're not self-employed here. You're working for Microsoft. So here, we're going to calculate 6.2% that they're going to take from you. So you go 160,000. 6.2% of that is going to be 9,920, and then 6.2% from your employer, same exact calculation, 9,920. And so from that, from you working and making $200,000 at Microsoft, that's going to be $19,840 paid in total from you and Microsoft to the Social Security Administration. So you can almost think about it that you just paid $19,840 to some older person. Seems unfair. However, when you think about the fact that you too will once be old, you will eventually get these same payments one day. The question is when, and that's where that magic number of 62 comes in, because you can start taking Social Security payments at 62 years old. So again, that is as of right now. So as of 2024, you got to be at least 62 to start taking these payments. Again, they might raise that age to an older age limit in the future. We don't know. But if we look at this chart here, so 62 is when you can start taking the payments. And then 70 is actually when you can max out on your payment schedule. And so again, it's good to know this, that if you start taking payments earlier, you get less money each year. So you have to figure out, you can start drawing at 62 and then the payments will max out at 70. So if you wait 8 years, you'll get a lot more each month, but you also haven't been making money for 8 years on those payments. So it's going to be a kind of a balancing act that you got to decide. Do you want to take less money, but you start getting it earlier, or do you want to take more money, but you're going to start getting it later? So again, it's going to be up to you of which way you go on that. And there's a thing called the break-even point, and the break-even point is going to be the point at which the total amount of payment you have received is more from taking the higher payments and waiting longer. So again, it's going to be the point when the total amount of payment you have received is more from taking the higher payments and waiting longer. So this will make more sense when you kind of see it visually. So Here's your age down here on the x-axis. The y-axis, we're going to graph the total amount of payment you have received from Social Security. And so again, the blue line here is going to be if you started drawing at 62. The red line would be if you started drawing at 70. And we're going to try to find, I'll show you what the break-even point is. So if you started taking payments at 62, that's what it would look like in this scenario. So again, at age 79, it means you've made over $400,000 in just getting paid from Social Security, which is not too shabby to think that you've just kind of been sitting back and you've made over $400,000 just from getting paid from Social Security. But let's say you waited 8 years and you started taking the payments at age 70. So this is what that graph would look like. So the line is a steeper graph because you're getting paid more, but again, you haven't been getting paid for 8 years, but the break-even point is going to be right here, and that's when the red line surpasses the blue line. So now that means the red line would be the better choice. But again, you never know what will happen in the future, so more people, I feel like, usually start drawing at 62 versus waiting longer. There's also one more thing that we should think about before we start making some calculations, and that's COLA. Not COLA like that, but COLA, or COLA, which is an acronym that stands for Cost of Living Adjustment. And what it really means is that it's guaranteed pay increases each year within the Social Security program to keep pace with inflation and to keep you happy, because now you know your buying power will always remain steady. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into NerdWallet's Social Security Estimator, and we're going to put in some numbers and see how you can kind of estimate how much money you would be drawing potentially from Social Security way down the road. So we are in NerdWallet's Social Security Estimator, and what we're going to do is we're going to plug in some parameters over here, and then we're going to see what our monthly payments would be like from Social Security over here with the stuff we have plugged in. So let's go with somebody that was born in, say, 1995. So that would be somebody who's 21 years old today. And let's say that their desired age to begin taking Social Security payments is going to be 62. We'll just go with some U.S. averages here. We'll go the average salary is roughly about $50,000, and the averages wage increases are roughly about 2 to 3% per year. So with this info, we'll kind of get an estimate. Again, this is not like NerdWallet's other calculators that are pretty exact. This one's going to be an estimate because it's so far down the road. We don't know how much the Social Security program will have changed by then. So based on this is estimating that if you start taking at 62, you'd be drawing $2,703 per month just from Social Security payments. So if you see right here, that's if you start drawing at 62, at 63, 64, 65, 66, and then all the way up to 70. So again, if you waited and started drawing at 70 instead of 62, you'd be getting almost $5,000 per month, infinite payments for the rest of your life, with also inflation increases. If you started taking this, you'd get starting at $2,700 a month, plus the inflation increases, which would be about 2 to 3% increases each year, so your buying power keeps up. But you can see you're making a lot more if you wait longer, but you also have waited 8 years to draw. But let's compare the break-even point at 62 versus if you start drawing at age 67. So here we have that right here. So 62, as you can see, again, it's going up slower than the 67 line because you're getting paid more per year here. But you still would not, you'd have to wait until you're 77 and a half years old before you started to, you had made more money based off taking it from 67. Because, again, the reason why that is because even though you're making more per year, before you've even made one dime drawing from 67, you've already been able to build up over $150,000 in cash at age 62. And again, the blue line's still ahead. And then finally, you would end up making more and have more based off of taking from 67. But again, you'd have to wait 10 more years for this to be a better deal. So that is how you can kind of get a rough idea of what your Social Security benefits could look like in the future. And sorry, young people, it only has estimates for people between 22 and 70 at this point. So that is a rough breakdown of Social Security, the Social Security system, and how it works. I hope this video made it more understandable. And as always, have a nice day and take it easy.